السلام عليكم جميعا. معكم مهل الرحيلي من NSKTech. أول شيء أتمنى أن تكونوا جميعا طيبين وبصحة وسلامة. أول شيء أحب أعرفكم ب NSKTech. تم تأسيس NSKTech تماشيا مع رؤية 2030، بحيث أننا مسؤولين عن نقل التكنولوجيا الحديثة المنتجة من شركات من جميع أنحاء العالم إلى السوق السعودي، بحيث أنه يستفيد منها القطاع الحكومي والخاص. متحدثينا أو ضيوفنا بالأحرى اليوم منضمين إلينا من جمهورية إيرلندا، فمحاضرتنا اليوم بتكون باللغة الإنجليزية، فأعتذر منكم، يحتاج أن نتكلم الحين بالإنجليزي. Hello everyone, my name is Mahal Al-Raheli and I am a project manager at NSKTech. I would like to start by introducing NSKTech and Getvisibility. NSKTech is a Saudi Arabian company that was developed according to the 2030 vision, where our responsibility is to transfer innovative technologies from all around the world to the Saudi Arabian market to benefit our private and public sector. Now, Getvisibility is one of our own dear partners in this journey. Getvisibility are the owners of the unique data classification platform that uses artificial intelligence and ML to classify unstructured data across servers, endpoints, and cloud infrastructure. Today, we have with us Mr. Ronan Murphy and Derek Kudze from Getvisibility. And before I leave the floor to them, I wanted to give you a brief introduction about Getvisibility's journey in Saudi Arabia. It's been almost 9 months since Ronan's first visit to Saudi Arabia. During this period, Getvisibility witnessed a huge improvements, as when they first started visiting organizations in Saudi Arabia 9 months ago, we have received comments about classification of Arabic documents. We have worked closely with Getvisibility to meet the organization's need. And now it's safe to say that Getvisibility software is able to read and classify the Arabic documents. Apart from automating the classification process of data, Getvisibility also announced their manual endpoint agent for classification on endpoints to allow this whole idea to be such a unique solution to organizations. Keeping in mind that this transformation happened in only a few months' time. Now, I don't want to take your time any longer, so I'm going to leave the floor to Ronan to take you through a tour in Getvisibility.
Thank you, Mahal, and it is my honor and pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you all here tonight. I would very much have liked to be out in Riyadh this evening to do this at one of our events, but unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we have to get used to a new way of working and doing this virtually. What I like to do when we are discussing technology and the services that we deliver in the kingdom is to first talk a little bit about the security, the cyber security landscape within the kingdom. And over the past few years, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has made significant strides in establishing itself as a global digital powerhouse. The kingdom's commitment to embracing digital transformation is extremely evident from the principles laid out in Vision 2030. It's a very ambitious reform agenda, and its goal is to transform Saudi Arabia into a digitally enabled trade, innovation, and investment hub. With the increased focus on digital enablement, Saudi Arabia is acutely aware of the cybersecurity threats its economy faces as it embraces its digital ambitions. And as such, the kingdom has invested in strengthening its cybersecurity posture by a range of different regulatory standards. It has implemented cybercrime legislation, a very robust national cybersecurity strategy, proactive computer emergency response teams, and many awareness and capacity campaigns. But as Saudi Arabian organizations accelerate their digital transformation journeys, many are facing significant cyber security challenges. And although Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is expected to create lots of economic growth and diversification, the kingdom continues to be beset by significant security challenges. And we have all seen in the recent past, Saudi Arabia's critical national infrastructure has been targeted multiple times. And these events have actually played a crucial role in renewing concerns related to cybersecurity within the kingdom. And as a result, cybersecurity readiness has become one of the major performance indicators of the transformation initiatives across the kingdom. And Saudi Arabia, to be fair, has taken major steps in mitigating future exposure to cyber threats and is making a real concerted effort to fight cyber terror. And a lot of the national development plans and diversification initiatives are recognizing emerging technologies as enablers of this transformation. So what I'm going to speak about today is about the technologies which we bring to the market in Saudi Arabia with our partners in NSKTech. We see that the Saudi Arabian market is a very important strategic market for us. It is a very sophisticated market in terms of the buyers and their understanding of the digital transformation journey, which they are embracing. But an interesting study which I looked at that was published by the IDC in late 2019 has showed that in terms of implementation of advanced security, 45% of companies had already felt within Saudi that they had implemented it, and 48% are planning for the end of 2021. And this 18% for hybrid cloud and 56% planning. 2% with blockchain had implemented it, 46% on the roadmap. Big data and analytics, which we will speak about today, 27% had implemented, and 63% are looking at that implementation. Internet of Things, 17% had implemented, with 29% looking at it. Cognitive and AI, again, we will speak about that today. 9% have successfully implemented it, and 70% have it on their roadmap. And that's going to be an important area of the presentation today. And robotic process automation, again, 23% had implemented it, with 70% looking to implement within the next 12 to 18 months. So it is a significant, there's significant plans across industry to look at that implementation. And if we look at the macro issues affecting the participants on this webinar this evening, we have seen a big change in the regulatory landscape in Saudi Arabia with the introduction of the ECC 2018. And we have also seen that there has been other regulatory, cybersecurity regulatory mandates, the NCES, introduced by the government. We have seen a huge increase in cyber attacks. We are now living in a very different world. than the last time I was in Saudi Arabia earlier this year, because our workforces are distributed, our employees are accessing data remotely. And then we have challenges where there is a lack of skills. Given the nature of the complexity of the challenge, organizations are wrestling to maintain the cost of adequate skills and even to find the ability to deliver effective cybersecurity capabilities within the organization. And with NSK Tech, we work across all of the areas of cyber governance, cyber defense, cybersecurity resilience, cloud computing, and overall industrial control system security, SCADA security, and the full paradigm of the cybersecurity conversation. When we look at data, which is the most important aspect of today's conversation, there is many different areas impacting on how Saudi Arabian organizations handle data, process data, collect data, and protect data. We are obviously, I'm sure everybody on the webinar today is familiar with the ECC 2018 and the type of regulatory constraints that is putting on organizations. You're also very familiar with the fact that the amount of data you are creating is increasing dramatically. As you embrace your digital transformation journey and you start consuming more cloud services, whether they be in-country government cloud services or out-of-country cloud services, the amount of data and the location of that data creation it means that the storage requirements and the processing requirements are growing. We have seen across a lot of government organizations and ministries within Saudi Arabia, they are looking at some aspect of cloud adoption and cloud migration, even to a private government cloud. We have already discussed a huge increase in cyber attacks, and being at the center of the Middle East and such a politically important force, the kingdom, unfortunately, is a target for a lot of these attacks. And then we see organizations, both public and private, really struggling to implement effective data loss prevention. And that problem has been exacerbated by the new world we now consume in post-pandemic, with people still working remotely and accessing corporate networks and corporate data in a remote fashion, which presents significant risks. When we look at organizations in the Middle East, in the kingdom, and across Europe and Asia, we find that our surveys indicate that the problems with data across stale user accounts, across the amount of data which is exposed to employees, across the amount of folders that are exposed to employees, it is a huge problem. And then across every sector, from energy and utilities, government, manufacturing, retail, finance, and pharmaceutical, there is massive challenges around how organizations find their data, how they classify their data, and how they protect their data. And typically, how we are seeing companies deal with this challenge is that they look at a two-technology approach. So specifically with a lot of the organizations we have met in Riyadh over the last 24 months, for their legacy data, and that is the data which is sitting on their file shares, on their local devices, they are using technology where they build very simple regex rules. They point it at the large data repositories. They scan the data and they build rules to classify it. So if the document contains the word invoice, it is classified as an invoice. If it contains the word CV, then it is classified as a CV. So it tends to be a very basic and crude way of classifying very large repositories of data. They then look at a product, typically a product like Bold and James, where it will use manual classification for data on the fly. And that is emails, it is Excel documents, Word documents, PDF documents, AutoCAD documents. And they will ask their users to decide on the classification of those documents. Again, this is a very basic approach to classification of data. And the amount of classification fields you can use tends to be quite low. So you could use internal, external, private, and some companies, depending on the regulatory mandate, will include additional classification fields and tags. So if you want to do it well, organizations need two products. They need two sets of licensing, they need two sets of implementation, and then they require training of users and professional services. So with Getvisibility, we have built a product that deals with the difficulty in managing two products. It deals with the difficulty in accurate classification. It reduces the cost of professional services. It reduces false positives. It helps effectively enable data loss prevention. And it deals with the significant risk of insider threat and insider fraud, where users may potentially misclassify data for the purpose of exfiltration out of the organization. So with Getvisibility, we have built a machine learning product, which is built from the ground up with a security by design approach and methodology. So when it is deployed within the organization's own infrastructure. It sits within their private cloud or their public cloud or within their hybrid cloud. And it is, again, completely built with security by design infrastructure. But it looks at both the legacy data, which is all of your data which is stored on your cloud storage, such as SharePoint or your internal systems. It could be something like Dropbox or OneDrive or whatever system it is you use. And it also looks at new data that is created on the fly. So as you create a document on your laptop or on your PC from home or at work, it will also help you classify that document accurately. And I'll give you an example of that in a moment. But this does has a lot of benefits for an organization. It's much faster. It's much more cost effective. It allows organizations to get a very clear and accurate picture of their data estate. And it allows organizations to maintain compliance and many other benefits around data loss prevention. So it is a two-tier data security platform for any environment, extremely dynamic, and ability to roll it out is seamless. And it'll support classification using a pre-trained machine learning model. And when users are classifying data on the fly, it will help with recommendations. So there's two components. For our endpoint, we have an agent, and that agent is integrated into Google Docs. It's integrated to Microsoft Office, both on-prem and Microsoft apps. So you have the ability to integrate it with all of the different technology systems you're using. To deploy, it is a very lightweight agent. And even in a server environment, it's very lightweight to deploy. So a single VM is all is required to deploy it into the enterprise. Here is a good example of what the server enterprise looks like. And this provides you with visibility across your entire data estate. So it utilizes the latest in deep learning, artificial intelligence, and it allows you to very quickly understand where is all of our data across our endpoints, across our file stores, and how accurately classified is that data? Is the finance data in the right place? Is our intellectual property in the right place? Is the data that is important to our organization, has that data got the adequate security controls from an access perspective, from an encryption perspective? It allows an organization to very quickly visualize their overall security. But then importantly, it also allows you to integrate that security reporting into your overall security operations center capability. So if you have risks associated with sensitive data, it is very easy to deal with that, and it is very easy and effective to deal with any data governance issues within the organization, and that includes cloud migration. So here's a good example. So if you have a Word document, you will see on the top right corner within your Microsoft Word application, you have your Get Visibility icon. And again, it's a lightweight agent for Windows desktops and supports Microsoft Office apps. And once you click on your classification, you will not be able to print a document or save a document or even screenshot a document until you have classified it. And once you classify it, depending on the company rules, you can classify it, for example, as what the internal compliance is: public, internal, confidential, a PII, HIPAA, a regulatory mandate specific to your organization. And then it will visually mark it, and it will also put a header and a footer. And it will change the metadata accordingly so that your data loss prevention can pick it up. But where it gets really interesting is you'll see on the box on the left, you also have your machine learning suggestions. So if you consider at the moment, if you use what we would term as a generation 1 technology, such as a Bold and James, that technology will allow the users to classify as internal, external, private, or whatever other fields have been configured for the user. But with Get Visibility, once they classify, you are reverse training your machine learning model. So for example, if your machine learning model it identifies a document as containing personal identifiable information or intellectual property, and you have a user who disagrees with that, you may give them the ability to not use the machine learning suggestion. They may classify it as something else. But this will raise a ticket within the organization. And if it raises a ticket, then there is a problem. And the problem is that either the machine learning model needs to be retrained on those type of documents, which is very easily done, or else the user needs to be trained because they do not understand how they should classify documentation, or else there is a security issue within the organization and that user is misclassifying data intentionally with a view to taking that data offsite. So it becomes very, very powerful within the organization. In terms of the workflow, the user presses the button to classify. They cannot print or share or email without classification. And the minute they click the classification, they will get a machine learning suggestion. And again, that can be linked to many different regulatory mandates, including ECC mandates, internal company mandates, international mandates such as GDPR, and so forth. And the suggestions will learn very quickly what the document should be and how it should be classified. And there's many different approaches that organizations can take to implementing the security controls around us. Again, it's very powerful from a marking perspective. You will see with most regulatory mandates now, they require the organization to visually mark it, to change the metadata, and that can be configured very easily across multi-language, including Arabic. And again, it will stop printing and saving. And if organizations, users within organizations disagree with the machine learning recommendation, then they will get a warning that they are classifying the document as a different document to what the machine learning model recommends it to be. And it will raise a ticket within the centralized portal. So that becomes very powerful because users now understand that if they mishandle data, or if they don't classify accurately, or even use the suggestion which Get Visibility is putting forward, there could be issues from an overall security perspective. The same goes with Microsoft Outlook. Again, it's very easy to just use the suggested classification field, which is very accurate. And again, we'll cover all of the different areas of classification which may be applicable to the organization. And again, it's a lightweight agent. It'll allow and facilitate manual classification, with power users having the ability to train the machine learning model with their classification suggestions, visual marking, attachment handling, metadata tags added, integration into the data loss prevention with blocking, and again, very importantly, generating central audit logs and reports, which is crucial. And again, the process is the user, before they can send it, they have to click on the ribbon, and then that will apply the visual headers and footers, again, multi-language and machine learning suggestion based on the context and the content of the email before you send it. So again, it becomes really, really powerful, and the more it is used, the better the machine learning model within the organization becomes. Here you have an example of the classification levels, and you can configure it in such a way that if the document is being viewed as containing very sensitive internal information, then the document, the email, will be blocked from sending. And then if the organization decides to be very strict, they can either allow the user to override it if it's not strict, but if they are very strict, it will block it and it will go to a holding area for review. And it's very easy to train a machine learning model, for example, in a very simplistic version of events. If a user wanted to email credit card details, before they could send the credit card details, I mean, they're very easy to understand because it's a consecutive 16-digit number with a CCV code and an expiry date and a name. And if a machine learning model sees that, it'll immediately identify, you know, this is somebody trying to send a credit card off site. We are blocking this. We are not letting it through, and we are alerting. So it becomes very powerful again, and it works in a hybrid environment. It's ideal for users working in a post-COVID world. And here's a very simple example of a report that comes to the administration team, and it shows how many emails have been blocked and the incidents, and it also shows de-escalations where users have changed the machine learning suggestion and they have decided to pick a different version of the classification, which again is very powerful for training the model and building a more sophisticated machine learning model within the estate. And it will also inform the organization on if they have an insider threat problem or if they have simply a data understanding issue where they need to train their staff to become more proficient. Again, another example of the user activity, the misclassifications where people have done it wrong, where people have done it correctly, and where people may have taken sensitive data and for whatever reason have changed the classification across it. So instead of just using a drop-down menu and classifying as internal, external, private, manually with technologies such as Bold and James, this takes it to a completely new level where you're using machine learning integrated into the endpoint. So it gets quite powerful. Also within Saudi, we've met now with many government ministries, and all of the data which they handle is in Arabic. So we have an extensive team of very sophisticated developers who have been building the Getvisibility platform in Arabic to deal with Arabic, and it is something we're very proud of. The classification of Arabic is complex. It's very nuanced, and there is challenges with it. And the approach we've taken for machine learning and natural language processing, and the combination of our Getvisibility agent, which is called Synergy, and our server edition, which is called Focus, becomes very powerful, and it allows government entities who have very proprietary information, specifically for their own ministry. It allows them to have their users train the model effectively, and then to mass quality check at scale to ensure that the quality of the Arabic machine learning model they are building is in a good place. And then that becomes powerful from a data loss prevention standpoint and many other benefits, which I will summarize in a moment. Again, a big aspect of the capability that our Getvisibility platform delivers, it's not just accurate data classification, it's also data which needs which has risk associated with it due to its contents and its various access rights. And we break it down by, I mean, out of the box, it will find and accurately classify HR documents, financial documents, legal documents, technical documents, business documents, marketing documents at a top layer. And then it will drill down into a very granular layer to RFIs and market research and timesheets. So it gets incredibly powerful out of the box. It's a very sophisticated model that you acquire. And then the more you classify, the more your users classify, the better the document, the machine learning model gets, and the more sophisticated it gets. Importantly, the machine learning model, again, it's a security by design architecture. It stays within your environment. It never leaves. The only one that has access to the model is you and your people. And the more you train it, the better it gets. The results, again, are quite powerful. It's very easy to track where data sits within the organization and what that data contains. And then permission management is integrated in. Again, one of the big challenges with larger organizations is who has access to what. People leave, people change. Active Directory can be a bit of a nightmare to properly manage, and Getvisibility provides really good visibility across permission management of data within the organization. Who created the document, who last edited the document, and lots of very important information related to it. So the Getvisibility solution, what we have built is an automated machine learning at scale, and it allows organizations to get tremendous value out of their data in a platform which has been architected from the ground up with security by design methodology, which is designed to work across very complex architecture and complex environments, and which has been designed to cover every aspect of the data problem. And it probably has never been more applicable than in a post-COVID workforce, where this data now has to be accessed and shared and collaborated on in a completely new way. And the use cases are many, but some of the big ones we've seen, and some of the use cases which we have found have resonated well in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, have been the protection of intellectual property, organizations who are building their own IP, and that IP it comes in many shapes, sizes, and complex formats. And the ability to find it, to understand what risks are associated with it, and to accurately classify it is a huge use case for Getvisibility. The other area is, as organizations look at cloud infrastructure, whether it is government, private government cloud, hybrid cloud, or some aspect of public cloud, it's the ability to understand what data is duplicated, what data is redundant, obsolete, and trivial, and what data falls under a governance, risk, and compliance mandate, where they could be in trouble for not taking adequate security protocols around it, such as encryption or deletion or identity access controls. Very importantly is enabling proper data loss prevention. So if an organization is using Trend Micro or ForcePoint or McAfee or some technology to stop data leakage within their organization, how effective is that? I mean, it can be very difficult to protect data unless it is accurately classified. And if you have millions of legacy documents and you are creating millions of new documents over the course of a day or a week or a month, it can be really, really challenging to effectively enable data loss prevention. And that is why machine learning is so important. And then there is the integration into your security operations center and utilizing SOC services to understand if there's data challenges outside of your firewalls and your antivirus and your web proxies, to understand if there's unusual behavior at the data layer. Again, cloud migration is important, helping whether it be government ministries to move to the cloud or private organizations to consume cloud services. Do they know what they're moving to the cloud? Do they have adequate protection on that data which is being moved to the cloud? And then finally, information migration and ERP systems. If companies are using technologies and platforms like OpenText or Oracle or various different ERP systems, how do they control and protect data that comes out of the database layer into an unstructured format? How do they know that that data is being adequately and properly protected? So we build APIs and integrations into many of the enterprise systems so that when data does leave that structured world, that Getvisibility provides accurate discovery, classification, and protection on that data. And also, importantly, when we integrate into the data loss prevention layer, because we accurately classify, we will then be able to upload into whatever tool it is you use. Again, ForcePoint or Trend Micro or any of those tools. So it enables really effective DLP. And also, because you are getting assisted, verified classification, the users are classifying, but the machine learning model is always working in the background to understand, is this being done right? Is there an alert there? Is there unusual behavior? And it's all been done at a very lightweight, real-time environment. So it gets very powerful. So to wrap it up, it's automation at scale. It's embracing a machine learning journey by utilizing it at both server and endpoint layer. It's very, very fast and very, very accurate. And it results in far less false positives than manual approach to doing this. It allows organizations to very quickly know, should they educate their staff better to the type of handling procedures required for data, or do they have an issue with insider threat? The more their users classify the data, the better the machine learning model gets. So whether it is across a young machine learning model, an immature machine learning model in Arabic, the more that they train the model in the HR department and the finance department and the intellectual property department, the better that model gets for the organization and the more powerful the use cases they can use for it. Very importantly, for the regulatory mandates, ECC 2018 or NIST or any of these regulatory mandates, it becomes really important. And that becomes important as well from a competitive differentiation standpoint with organizations. The ability to accelerate cloud adoption, again, is very powerful. Addressing compliance standards. And again, using the best of both worlds. The ability to look at data and say, you know what? We want to embrace AI. We want to embrace machine learning. We want to go on that journey. But we're not quite ready to just hand everything over to a machine learning model. We would like the ability to have both manual classification and machine learning capability so that we can embrace machine learning over a period of time across many languages and across various different complexities of documentation. And we've learned that to do that effectively, you have to provide the capability to approach it at a manual level. And you also have to approach it at a machine learning level, because otherwise it is simply impossible to do it using generation one technology approach where you apply just regex to that data. So thank you for listening. Mahal, will I hand back to you?
Yes, thank you very much, Ronan, for all this useful information about Getvisibility. And I would like to also confirm a point that I always like to go back on. when we talking about Git visibility, and that Git visibility, the most important thing, the game changer about Git visibility, that it respects the privacy of the organization. And that's why the classification process, it happens at the environment of the organization. And this is basically the game changer. And I guess you've talked you've told the whole story about Git visibility.
Yeah, I
and
think
explained
Mahal,
everything
Mahal,
perfectly. Yeah.
I think to your point, our clients across the globe, I mean, they span everywhere from North America to Europe, to the Middle East, to Asia, and typically companies who want to look at fixing the data problem are concerned about privacy, they're concerned about security, they're concerned about regulation. And for them to embrace a technology that can help them understand data, then security by design, methodology, architecture, deployment is fundamentally important. We would never work as a business unless we could take the product and give it to organizations and allow them to fine tune it and build it and deploy it within their own estate. It is very difficult to sell a product like this as a pure play SaaS product, because the data it is classifying is simply too sensitive. So therefore that approach, it works well for companies who are very serious about privacy and very serious about security by design architecture within the application.
Exactly, Ronan. Thank you so much for this session. And now, if anyone have any question, you can go ahead and ask, and we will be happy to answer.
It's quite there for questions, Mal.
You left no room. Exactly. You've told the whole story exactly in the best way there is. But I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna leave my email address here. If anyone had any question, of course you can contact us, and you have Ronan's email as well. So for any inquiries or any questions related to Git visibility in general, we will be available at all times.
Excellent. Thank you, Mahal, and thank you everybody for taking the time to participate this evening.
Thank you, Ronan.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.